There are people who feel relief when plans get canceled, people who genuinely look forward to a quiet evening inside, people who recharge not in crowds, not in loud rooms, not in constant movement, but in stillness. And society often misunderstands them. They're called antisocial, boring, unambitious, too comfortable, avoidant. But here's the truth nobody says clearly. Loving to stay at home is not laziness. It's psychology. Imagine this. Two people finish a long week. One feels restless. They need noise, social energy, movement. The other feels something different, a soft exhale, a desire to close the door, dim the lights, put on familiar music, and just exist without performance. What's happening there? It begins with nervous system differences. Some people are biologically wired to process stimulation more deeply. Psychologists call this high sensory processing sensitivity. Research shows that highly sensitive individuals have stronger activation in brain regions associated with awareness, empathy, and environmental processing. In simple terms, they absorb more. Crowds feel louder, social cues feel heavier, emotions in a room feel tangible. So when they come home, it's not just relaxation, it's decompression. Home becomes a nervous system reset. Now imagine a child who grew up in chaotic environments, loud arguments, emotional unpredictability, or constant social pressure. That child may learn that home or solitude is the only place where control exists. Even in stable households, some children retreat into books, imagination, and quiet corners not because they're withdrawn, but because internal worlds feel safer and richer than external chaos. Introversion plays a role too, but introversion is often oversimplified. Introversion doesn't mean disliking people. It means social interaction consumes more energy than it generates. Neuroscience suggests that introverted individuals may have higher baseline cortical arousal. That means their brains are already stimulated. Additional external input becomes overwhelming faster. So staying home isn't avoidance, it's regulation. Now let's go deeper. For some people, home represents autonomy. No masks, no social scripts, no impression management. In public, you perform roles. At home, you return to self. People who love staying home often value psychological sovereignty. They prefer environments where they control sound, lighting, pace, and interaction. That control lowers cortisol. It increases safety signals, and safety is addictive. Now consider this. In social environments, there is constant micro-evaluation happening, tone monitoring, facial reading, impression shaping. Even confident individuals expend cognitive resources maintaining social positioning. But at home, the brain relaxes executive social processing. Energy shifts inward. For thinkers, creators, analysts, introspective personalities, inward energy is fertile ground. Home becomes laboratory, reflection space, creative incubation chamber. Now, here's something interesting. Studies show that people who spend more time alone are often higher in self-reflection and imagination. Solitude activates default mode network activity in the brain, the same network responsible for introspection, memory integration, and future simulation. When someone sits alone at home thinking, they're not doing nothing, they're integrating. But there's another layer. Some people love staying home because unpredictability exhausts them. Social events contain unknown variables. Who will be there? What will be discussed? What mood will dominate? Will conflict arise? Home reduces uncertainty. Predictability reduces stress. Now we move into a darker layer. Sometimes love of home is not just regulation.
Sometimes it's protection. If someone has experienced rejection, bullying, betrayal, or chronic social anxiety, their nervous system may associate public spaces with threat. Withdrawal becomes shield. Home becomes fortress. The difference between preference and avoidance lies in emotional tone. If someone stays home and feels content, creative, peaceful, that's alignment. If someone stays home and feels trapped, isolated, afraid, that's avoidance. Now, let's talk about emotional energy. Highly empathetic individuals find crowds draining because they unconsciously absorb others' emotions. Mirror neurons activate, emotional contagion occurs. After hours of absorbing subtle emotional signals, the body becomes tired. Home becomes silence. Silence becomes medicine. There's also something about control over identity. In social spaces, identity becomes relational. At home, identity becomes intrinsic. People who love staying home often enjoy independent thinking. They don't need constant validation loops. Their dopamine system may respond more to internal accomplishment than external applause. Now, imagine someone who spends a night reading, learning, or working on a project alone. Their reward circuitry activates through mastery rather than attention. Contrast that with someone who depends heavily on social feedback for stimulation. Different wiring, neither superior, just different. But society rewards visibility. Extroversion is celebrated, networking is glorified. So people who love staying home sometimes question themselves. Am I missing out? Should I be more outgoing? Is something wrong with me? And here's the important truth. Restorative solitude is psychologically healthy. Chronic isolation is not. There is a difference. People who love staying home often maintain a small but meaningful social circle. They prefer depth over volume, quality over frequency. Their conversations are longer, their friendships fewer, but often stronger. Now, let's examine trauma again. If someone grew up needing to emotionally manage others, home becomes the only space where they don't have to scan constantly. Hypervigilance shuts off when alone. That relief becomes addictive. But here's something powerful. People who love staying home often have rich internal landscapes, imagination, internal dialogue, creative thought. They don't feel bored alone because they don't feel alone with themselves, and that's rare. In a world addicted to distraction, being comfortable in solitude is psychological strength. But it must be conscious choice, not fear-based retreat. Now imagine two scenarios. In the first, someone cancels plans and feels peace. In the second, someone cancels plans and feels anxious relief. That difference reveals everything. Peace means alignment. Anxious relief means avoidance. The psychology of people who love staying home is often rooted in nervous system sensitivity, introversion, deep cognitive processing, creative incubation, autonomy preference, or trauma adaptation, but not weakness. Let me ask you something. When you stay home, what do you feel? Energy restoration or fear of exposure? If you love staying home because it nourishes you, that's self-awareness. If you avoid the world because it terrifies you, that's something to gently examine. Home should be sanctuary, not hiding place. And there's one more layer. In an overstimulated digital age, constant noise fragments attention. People who consciously choose home often protect cognitive clarity. They value focus. They value slowness. They're not disconnected. They're selective. If this resonates, comment below. Do you genuinely love your solitude, or are you learning to feel safe in it? And if these deep psychological breakdowns help you understand yourself more clearly, subscribe, because understanding your temperament is not limitation, it's alignment. People who love staying home are not antisocial. They're often self-aware, sensitive, thoughtful, and selective with energy. The real question isn't why you love staying home. The real question is whether your home is a space of expansion or contraction, peace or protection, rest or retreat. And once you know that, you know yourself.